Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Artificial intelligence is talking to us and might soon be in the next cubicle. Bret Taylor had top roles at Twitter, Salesforce, and Google. He's now the chairman of OpenAI, and he is raising funds for yet another AI conversation bot. He tells us more.
I think a lot of folks in Silicon Valley think we should probably be focused more on empowering little tech than trying to disempower big tech.
Tesla's Cybercab event had all flash, but maybe not much substance. CNBC's Phil LeBeau on the highlights.
The one piece of news that everybody wanted, we didn't hear a peep out of Elon Musk about.
All that today, plus AMD's chip off the old block, tracking the cost of Hurricane Milton, and Harris and Trump try just about everything to entice voters.
Sounds like a good idea, but then you got to think it through.
Wait, there's more. Nvidia may be worth $3 trillion, but CEO Jensen Huang still has time to swing by our set.
This is the greatest show on earth.
It's Friday, October 11th, 2024. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Squawk Box on this Friday morning. We are live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin, and this is it, last trading session of the week.
AMD launching some new artificial intelligence chips yesterday. That's taking direct aim now at Nvidia's data center graphics processors, known as GPUs. The chip is called the Instinct MI325X. Say that fast. It'll start production before the end of the year. AMD didn't reveal a new major cloud or internet customers for that new chip, but the company previously said that Meta and Microsoft buy its GPUs, and those companies were on hand at the launch event along with Oracle. Now, take a look. This is Lisa Su yesterday on Closing Bell Overtime.
This was a big day for us. We launched a ton of new products across our EPYC, fifth generation EPYC, our new AI chip, MI325. We talked about our roadmap going forward, which we're accelerating. We talked about some new networking solutions. We talked about AI PCs, and we had a ton of partners on stage. So it's been a fantastic day.
I just want one of the chips. I don't even want to put it in anything.
What are you going to do?
An MI325X? You don't want one? And what color would you pick if you got one?
Now let's get to the aftermath from Hurricane Milton yesterday. Yesterday, President Biden said that Congress should return from its recess to pass emergency relief after the storm wreaked havoc on Florida's Gulf Coast. The hurricane left millions without power and caused tornadoes that killed at least 10 people. There were 39 reports of tornadoes just ahead of Milton hitting ground in Florida. The president said the most immediate need is funding for a Small Business Administration program to provide assistance to victims of natural disasters. He also said he expects lawmakers will need to top up FEMA's disaster relief program in the coming months. A spokeswoman for the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, said that it would be premature for Congress to return from recess until the full scope of the damage is clear. She said Congress would act upon its return in November to address those funding needs.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. No, for some reason, I was thinking about the SPR again after this story on the front page of the Journal, where Iran, through back channels, secretly saying any of you other oil-rich states that were to even allow your airspace to be used for an attack on us, we're coming for your oil. And the United States has always implied that we'd be there as a security umbrella for Emirates or Saudi Arabia, Jordan, all those places. And it just makes me wonder if we did see that, because I still feel like Israel feels like it's going to do. I don't know if it's oil, I don't know if it's nuclear, I don't know if it's both, or I don't know if it's neither. But if it were, and then that happened, and it's $120 oil again, and we're down here on the SPR, that would be, right now it looks like a pretty good move because they've been able to sell high, and they at a point looked like they could buy low for a while. Remember, Amos Hochstein's been in here and said, yeah, we can do that. But if it was, we definitely aren't ready for an emergency. A true emergency, not a price emergency, but a true emergency.
It's just so much of the production is now in the United States, too.
It's better.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as scary, but still on the margin, if you were to if any of these were permanently damaged for a year or whatever it was, where there was no production, it wouldn't be good for inflation and other things.
Speaking yesterday in Detroit, former President Trump added to his tax cut proposal. He said he wants to make interest on car loans fully deductible.
So we're going to make it fully deductible, the interest payments. That's going to revolutionize your industry. This will stimulate massive domestic auto production and make car ownership dramatically more affordable for millions and millions of working American families. This is a phenomenal thing.
A tax code change like that would have to go through Congress. Trump also promised to bar Chinese-made autonomous vehicles from driving on American roads.
All these things it's like one party is giving away home health care.
Great giveaway.
It's a great giveaway. The other you're not paying taxes.
I'm not arguing in favor of any of this.
But the others, but it's weird because you can see the dichotomy. One wants to give away everything for services and home health care and job care. The other wants to doesn't want anything taxed anymore. And some of these things, like, I think it's a good, it sounds on face value, no Chinese-made autonomous vehicles, let's make them here. Sounds like a good idea, but then you got to think it through.
Pricing.
And you got to think it through. Mm-hmm. And then I think,
it's not just autonomous vehicles that they don't want. They don't want any
kind of industrial
policy. The big three will say they don't want any kind of industrial
policy. Any kind of industrial
I would think
policy
you'd be against that.
It has ramifications. But then I think there's a neo view, sort of, that we tried globalization where you go anywhere to get the cheapest labor you can, and we have hurt a lot of work.
I would say autonomous vehicles in particular, there's a defense argument for that you don't want to allow
defense too, but what about all the hollowed out middle class jobs that we've had in the last 25 years?
This is the change we've been dealing with.
But if we do it here and we pay more, it's going to cost more, and there's going to be inflation. We have to realize that that's going to be one of the.
Then the question, you're offsetting that by allowing people to reduce their taxes by deducting the interest. I mean, that's
what I mean. And I'll bet you that he's saying you get to write off the taxes on domestic cars that you buy.
Well, it's the same thing as houses.
I'll bet you he tries to do it with.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing as writing off your mortgage. But is there a SALT limit on that
all
too?
New.
There's a SALT limit
there's a cap on that. Right. But this is a whole new. I'll bet you he says, to get the 15% corporate rate, it has to be on domestic manufacturing. So this is all industrial policy too, that you don't know what the ramifications are.
Well, the other piece of it is it may very well be that nobody ultimately agrees with any of these giveaways.
That Congress will not sign off on it.
And everybody says this whole thing. None of these things.
Either side. Yeah, the home health care is probably $500 billion a year. If you pay for everyone until they die, if that's covered by Medicare.
You'd have to find a different way. But you'd also have to find a way to pay for it. You don't hear. I mean, that's the other piece of that. They are going to tax on the other end, right?
So, it's not going to be enough to cover it all.
Which you can't go through either. You can't
may not be enough,
but you can't do unrealized gains. That'll never go through either.
Tease will be next.
Coming up, a special conversation with Bret Taylor, tech entrepreneur and current chairman of OpenAI. He has a new artificial intelligence platform, which he says is just the way of the world today.
So in 1995, if you wanted to exist digitally, you needed a website. 10 years ago, if you wanted to exist on that iPhone, you needed a mobile app. Now in the age of conversational AI, you need an AI agent.
Squawk Pod will be right back. This is Squawk Pod with Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Stand Andrew by in 3, 2, 1. Cue Andrew.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Our next guest met while working at Google nearly 20 years ago. They're now teaming up to tackle artificial intelligence through a startup called Sierra. It enables companies to build AI agents that directly interact with customers. Joining us right now in an exclusive interview is Clay Bavor. He's the co-founder of Sierra. He previously led Google Labs, spent 18 years at that company. And then Bret Taylor's here, co-founder and CEO of Sierra. Bret is also the chairman of the board of OpenAI, former co-CEO of Salesforce, former CTO of Facebook. You got a lot of titles. Twitter's former chairman. We could be here for a long time.
Sheesh,
and the co-creator. Hold on. Of Google Maps,
Yay.
folks. Okay.
I was going to start cheering
I'm cheering
for Google Maps. Exactly.
Now that gets me. Now I'm impressed.
Now
when
you're
my
impressed.
dad gets lost, he still calls me. I'm like, Dad, I haven't worked there for 15 years.
So let's talk about what Sierra is doing, because you guys just introduced voice. and are doing some very interesting things. We keep talking about sort of the application layer of what AI can actually do for businesses, for folks. And yours, I think your efforts are probably the first doing that in real time right now.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So I like to start just with consumers because I think consumer behavior drives all else. And I imagine in 2007, when Steve Jobs announced the iPhone, you probably all had BlackBerries, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And did you say, there's no way in heck I will ever type my emails on a touchscreen?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
She still has the BlackBerry.
10 years later,
No, I don't.
you were using an iPhone and you were typing on a
using it
touchscreen.
disgruntledly. I have asked for a keyboard.
We're in this new era. Just like we're in the era of touchscreens, probably 95% plus of human-computer interaction on touchscreens. You fast forward 5 or 10 years, 95% of human-computer interactions are going to be having a conversation. We're in the age of conversational customer experiences. So in 1995, if you wanted to exist digitally, you needed a website. 10 years ago, if you wanted to exist on that iPhone, you needed a mobile app. Now in the age of conversational AI, you need an AI agent. This is the way your company is going to have its branded customer experience that can actually have a conversation with you. And it's going to do everything you can do on your website.
So right now, I call up the phone number for the airline or this and that, and I got to press 1, 2, 3, and I'm saying, operator, please, just, I don't want to go through the whole thing where they don't understand me.
Works.
Right, zero, pound, you're doing all of this.
Agent.
Well, here's the thing. The average American spends something like 12 to 13 hours per year on hold. So even before getting to the touch tone menu, you're waiting on hold.
So the question is, how good is this technology today, and how frequently are people saying agent?
So here's the thing. The average price of a phone call when you call customer service is around $13.
$13.
$13.
Every time I call up Delta.
And it varies depending on who's answering the phone, how complex the case is. But if you're a business and the price of a phone call is $13, you don't want to do a lot of those things.
Yeah, but you don't want to tick us off either and make us feel like we can't get through to you no matter what happens.
That's exactly right. So now in this age of conversational AI, not only is it a delightful experience, rather than press 4 for order returns, you can actually just have a conversation. But it's also less expensive. So what I'm excited about is you imagine a world where those phone calls are not only effective and delightful compared to what they are now, but they're an order of magnitude less expensive. How many phone calls will you have with your customers? I mean, this will be fun. Like, will you go to a brand site and rather than burying that phone number, it'll be right on their homepage and say, yeah, call us anytime. So not only, I think, is this technology delightful, you don't need to wait on hold. You don't need to go through the IVR phone trees.
You know what they say? When they ask me what I need, and I tell them, they always say the same thing. I didn't get that.
Yeah, can you ask another way?
Right, I didn't get that. So obviously we need to refine this, right? But it's refinable.
One of the really powerful things about the way we build agents for companies is we can imbue an AI agent, which is basically an autonomous piece of software that can reason, make decisions, and of course converse with a company's factual knowledge, so everything about its products, its history, its background, its complex processes, and then we're able to integrate it with the systems that they use to run the company itself. So not only can the agent understand what you're saying, but answer complex questions and actually get stuff done.
How much investment does it take on a business's side? Some companies have, lots of user manuals, scores of data, other things. They've put it in data sets that are actually readable, et cetera. And then there's a whole bunch of companies that either never put all that stuff on paper or should have, or have it in sort of disparate areas. They've never actually turned it into readable data. How does that process work, and what does that cost?
So we have a really unique model. We're actually a full service shop. When we work with our customers, we partner with them. We actually deploy what we call an agent engineer to every single one of our customers, and we deliver them a fully working agent. So if you go to SiriusXM's homepage, you'll see Harmony, which is their AI agent. If you know the Shorts brand's Chubbies, their AI is named Duncan Smothers, and he is everything you would hope Duncan Smothers would be. We were actually just here in New York meeting with some customers. We were just talking to Carly, who leads the customer experience teams at Yahoo and AOL. This is a brand that is the reason why we got into tech in the first place. They were one of the first websites on the internet, and now they're working with us to make their first AI agent. And so any company can do this, and there is some cleanup necessary, because if you think of your standard operating procedure, if it exists in the ether, if it exists in your head, you have to do something to formalize it. But it's not rocket science. This technology actually works today.
Which raises the question of how big of a moat do you have? There are other people who are doing the same thing.
It's a great question, and I think it is a really competitive time. There is no doubt. We always like to say, I think the AI boom sort of echoes the dot-com boom. And we've talked a lot about this. And if you think of the dot-com, like what brands do you think of? Like Pets.com,
Webvan. Right, those
I'm
are
not
the two.
sure I agree with that. If you think now, like look at the stock market. What are the top companies? Amazon, Google, enterprise software, my alma mater, Salesforce, all born in the dot-com bubble. To some degree, the most frothy statements about the dot-com bubble were maybe true.
Right.
It doesn't mean each of the companies individually was great. We know that we are not entitled to success, and we're focused on one thing, which is we want to make our customers successful.
Here's my question, though. Two things. One is the underlying technology. Are you using a frontier model like an OpenAI to sort of run this, or using a Llama or something in open source that's sort of running underneath all of this? And two, how much do you worry that actually, if any of the frontier models get good enough, they can effectively talk about the mode? They'll be able to just do this on their own effectively.
Underneath the hood of our AI agents, we've actually built a pretty thick platform that uses not just one model, but on any given action or response, as many as 5, even 10 separate models for different purposes. So decision making, reasoning, planning, action generation, and so on. And within that platform, we're also able to express really complex instructions, if you will, for an AI that makes it possible for an AI not to hallucinate, as you might have heard, but to actually follow faithfully these complex processes that customer service teams have. And there's a lot of IP in that.
And just, you talked about the frontier models. They're amazing. I mean, ChatGPT is possibly the most delightful new consumer product I've used in decades. But at the end of the day, we really think that this market is going to play out a little bit like the cloud market. You'll have infrastructure providers in the cloud that was Azure, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and then you'll have a software as a services market. And that's things like ServiceNow, Salesforce, Shopify, Adobe. And the reason for that is most companies don't want to buy technology. They want to buy a solution to a problem. And I think the same will be true of AI. And it's just an early market. So right now, for a lot of applications, all you can do is buy the technology. The total cost of ownership of maintaining and building these technologies, no CIO or CTO wants to take on.
Your company's already valued at about $4 billion. Do you imagine this is an independent company in the future? Do you think that this gets swallowed up into a larger company that has a massive sales force and you need that sales force?
You really phrased that well. Do I want to be swallowed up? Look,
maybe, by the way, could be considered an acqui-hire these days, right? And then you go run the company.
Look.
So you're not swallowed at all.
We are so excited to make an enduring company. And we think that, we're humble, as I said, this is a very competitive market. We are not entitled to our success, but we believe that, if you look at the history of technology, when were many of the great companies born? They were born when there was a technology disruption that kind of shuffles the cards of the incumbents. And so the birth of the internet, gave birth to Amazon, to Google, to others. You look at the mobile phone, Uber, WhatsApp, DoorDash. So, this is a moment where I think you have startups and incumbents. There's a slightly different dynamic because there is no market leader.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, talking about shuffling the cards and incumbents. As former Googlers yourself, do you have a take or view on what the government is now talking about doing, potentially breaking up Google, and whether you think actually the incumbents have an unfair advantage, maybe not just broadly, but in the AI space?
Well, we were just talking about this because as you started the show, we both started our career at Google. Thank you, Marissa Mayer, for hiring us both.
Thanks, Marissa.
And, so we're totally biased in that way. We love Google. I mean, this is, your first job, right? Like we are a byproduct of that culture. But taking your question, competitiveness, I think a lot of folks in Silicon Valley think we should probably be focused more on empowering little tech than trying to disempower big tech. I think that we're in the midst of one of the most meaningful technology disruptions of a generation. Companies like ours exist because of that. And I think
what does it mean to empower smaller tech? Is that about capital and about money to be able to get more Nvidia chips? What does it mean to be able to do that without disadvantaging the larger companies that actually have that capital where they can go do those things?
Well, I think the reason why the United States is the greatest country for entrepreneurs is because we have capital, we're not too highly regulated, and what often happens in these well-intentioned environments is people introduce constraints in the business environment that actually help incumbents because it creates a lot of complexity for startups. And what we want as a startup in this space is equal access to customers, equal access to the technology. So broadly speaking, I think I respect regulators sort of approaching this, but we think the greatest asset that technology industry has is the creative destruction. I'll just give an anecdote. You talked about these companies. The first campus that Google had was Silicon Graphics campus. We moved in because that company was once high flying and then going out of business. The first campus that we had at Facebook when I was there was Sun Microsystems' old campus. And they were high flying and we moved into their campus. The half-life of technology companies is not particularly long.
I just looked up a couple just because I walked down memory lane. CMG, David
Yeah.
Weather. How about Lycos? You know where Lycos is now? It was sold for $36 million to some Indian company. It went for 12.5 to Terra Networks. Remember Lycos?
Yeah,
Didn't
I
we all
remember.
talk
Yep.
Lycos?
Yep.
So I had to look it up, beginning with that. I couldn't even remember the.
And
it's
this is the
amazing.
thing, so it doesn't mean that there aren't issues to be solved, and I don't mean to sort of dismiss the fundamental issues, but when this wave of AI right now, I think there'll be 10 plus meaningful enterprise software companies, probably $1+ trillion consumer company out of this. And the most important thing we can do as a country is create an environment where those companies thrive, and I think we're doing a good job as a country doing that.
Let me ask you another question. As you guys were walking, we were talking about, given your history at Google, we were talking about how Jeffrey Hinton, your former colleague, I don't know if he worked there when you were there.
I overlapped with him.
You
yeah.
overlapped
Yeah,
with
yeah.
him. Just won a Nobel Prize this
Yeah.
week. Amazing. But on the other end, he's been super critical both of Google and, frankly, of OpenAI, and the idea that some of these advances are happening almost too quickly without the proper safeguards on the other side. What do you make of that?
I think the issue of safety is really, really important in AI. And the mission of OpenAI is to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits humanity, which means a lot of things. It means that we don't need a digital divide. Everyone should have access to the technology. It means that it needs to be safe. I really believe that the best way to make AI safe is responsible iterative deployment. But
if a guy like that, who's winning the Nobel, who was there that early and has been decided to speak out publicly about this.
He's been worried about AI in general.
Should we be more worried than we are? Should you be more worried than you are? I don't know. Are you worried?
I think, as Bret said, taking AI safety and alignment and reducing bias in it is incredibly important. And so I think Jeff raises reasonable points. I think the other Nobel Prize awarded this week was to Demis Hassabis and the DeepMind team for AlphaFold and fundamental advances in chemistry. And I don't know how many millions of lives saved will be pulled forward in time as a consequence of that. So I think there's a balance here, right? If you over-index on safety and constrain the technology, you don't get the benefits, right, like AlphaFold that will literally be life-saving. And so I think it's nuanced, and I think the great labs of the world put a lot of focus and energy on.
Don't name your agent Hal. I mean, I'm worried that you're trying to create Hal. Are you not? Open the pod beta. I can't do that. Please don't.
Bret and Clay.
Dave. I can't do that, Dave.
We want to thank you for being here this morning. Congratulations.
Sorry,
Come on back. We want to follow the progress of this.
Next on Squawk Pod.
You can think of the car in an autonomous world as being like just a little lounge. You're just sitting in a comfortable little lounge, and when you get out, you will be at your destination.
Elon Musk's Cybercab event showcased groundbreaking Tesla technology, but may have failed to impress investors. More on that with CNBC's Phil LeBeau right after this.
I'm not sure you should really sit there and say, oh yeah, we're going to see it in 4 or 5 years.
And we're back. You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC. Here's Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Elon Musk unveiling Tesla's robo-taxi in a Hollywood-styled event last night. Phil LeBeau joins us now with more on all of it. Phil?
Andrew, I think Adam Jonas at Morgan Stanley summed it up best. And by the way, this is generally what you heard from most of the analysts after the event. He said, that's it. A disappointing lack of details. What we did get last night was plenty of showbiz, if you will, and fitting since it was on a Hollywood lot. There's Elon coming out, greeting the crowd, then getting inside of the robo-taxi, which some have called the Cybercab. By the way, the ride shares, autonomous ride shares, not with this vehicle, but with Model 3s and Ys, those will begin next year. Here is Elon Musk talking about his vision for the future.
You can think of the car in an autonomous world as being like just a little lounge. You're just sitting in a comfortable little lounge, and you can do whatever you want while you're in this comfortable little lounge. And when you get out, you will be at your destination. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
The Robo taxi, we didn't get a ton of details. It was more visual than anything else. 2 passengers inside, no steering wheel, no pedals, big screen in the middle of it, inductive charging, so it won't be plugged in order to recharge. The cost, Elon Musk says it'll start at under $30,000. When will it be built? Here's what he had to say.
We do expect actually to start fully autonomous, unsupervised FSD in Texas and California next year. And that's with the Model 3 and Model Y. And then we expect to be in production with the Cybercab, which is really highly optimized for autonomous transport in probably, well, I tend to be a little optimistic with timeframes. But in 2026. So, yeah. Before 2027, let me put it that way.
All right, there you go. Before 2027. One more piece of Elon's vision of the future when it comes to autonomous vehicles. This is what he calls the Robovan.
What happens if you need a vehicle that is bigger than a Model Y? Can you imagine going down the streets and you see this coming towards you? That'd be sick.
They unveiled it, can carry up to 20 people. They had, I presume those were Tesla staff members who exited the vehicle. And this is somewhere down the line, their vision of urban travel, autonomous travel, though they didn't give a timeline for this in terms of either when it'll be developed, go into production, et cetera. As you take a look at shares of Tesla, keep in mind that the one piece of news that everybody wanted, we didn't hear a peep out of Elon Musk about, and that is with regards to a lower-priced, drivable vehicle that, in theory, is going to go into production and then go on sale early next year. Remember, they teased that after Q1, that they would start working on a lower-priced vehicle. We heard no mention of that last night. So that's another reason why you see shares of Tesla selling off this morning. A classic buy the news in the run-up to, or buy the rumor on the run-up to the event. Sell the news. Guys, back to you.
Phil, did you see, and maybe I don't think about the future like Elon Musk, obviously. I don't. But he talked about the amount of land that's taken up with parking lots.
By parking lots.
And you think of some of the huge parking lots that we're talking about. Those are all people that have one car, one driveway. Here we are, I'm parking. Think of those.
Yeah, it could change the whole world.
It could change the whole world in terms of...
If you really believe it.
That's how you really believe somewhere.
I think it's
Joe, my answer...
Use a car, my answer if you're using the...
Yeah, but those cars have to get parked somewhere.
Joe,
now they do,
my answer to that is this.
Switches, yeah.
You say if everybody switches? You know how many vehicles there are in the U.S.? Take a guess. All vehicles.
Well, how many people?
That people are driving.
320 million.
I say more.
You're close, Becky. 290 million. 290 million.
Like one for every person.
You know how long it
Pretty
takes
much.
for a vehicle to really age out? The average age is 13 years.
Yeah, it's
Even
gotten older and
if
older.
you start to see a ton of autonomous vehicles being developed, it's going to take a long time.
I know.
Joe, you and I will be long dead,
He's talking 100 years
and there will
from
be people
Speak for
driving
yourself.
vehicles this way.
Speak for yourself, LeBeau.
Those parking lots will turn into like little airports for your flying car. So don't get too excited just yet. Hey, Phil, one of the things I was noticing on the Robotaxi, though, only 2 doors?
It's only 2 seats. Right?
Well, it's a 2-seater.
Only 2-seaters, but is that and is that what if you have a little child? Do you think you get a?
Then you need one of those vans. You need one of those.
Then you need the van.
Well, I think they'll cross that bridge at that time. Look, I think the idea here is you can drive down the cost because of the size, and most people who are getting into a cab, not all, but a good chunk, people getting into a cab, people who are driving around themselves. They're either driving themselves or it's one other person. That is the majority of vehicle rides in this country. And that doesn't mean that, there aren't people with 3 or 4. Yeah, that happens too.
I pack my whole
the
family.
whole vision here is to drive down the cost.
Robotaxi minivan.
No, the Robovan is for Elon's family, him and his kids. They're 20.
I want a minivan for my family. Robotaxi.
I think that Robotaxi, the van looks what, at least 5 years away, Phil? And can that drive on all streets?
Further.
It looks like it has.
It's got to be further, Andrew. Do you really think this is going to happen by 27? It could. It could happen by 27. But let's be honest here. Elon Musk's history has been, I'm going to put a date out there, and then it's not going to happen by that date.
He said that himself.
It may
last
eventually
night.
happen, and it does often happen, but it doesn't often happen when he says it will. So the Robovan, they didn't give us a date. So I'm not sure you should really sit there and say, oh, yeah, we're going to see it in 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
You got to hand it to him. I mean, even taking on the world's underpopulation problem, single-handedly, himself. I mean, he is a can-do kind of a guy, is he not? I'm not kidding. It's amazing.
We have a superstar in house.
We do.
Just walked in the door. He's standing right here next to us.
Scooch
Say hello.
How is the camera not getting
Can we get a better camera angle? Here, see who's here.
He's here just to
Cameo
He's doing
appearance.
some other stuff here. But
We don't have a microphone on you is a problem.
Well, it's so exciting to be on the air. Am I on TV?
You're on TV.
That's incredible. I'm with Becky.
With the greatest show, greatest show in the world.
This is the greatest show on earth.
Wow, keep that tape. And by the way, with what is arguably the most successful company in America today.
Well,
Can we just say that?
What, especially
than
I mean,
that.
just on the trajectory it's been.
Of probably not quite market cap, but in terms of getting to this market
Yes,
cap.
unbelievable.
In
Unbelievable ride.
16 days or whatever the hell.
It wasn't
Anyway.
quite 16 days. 32 years and 16 days.
That's what they always say about instant success. It's always like decades in the making.
And then overnight.
Usually.
And then an overnight.
Oh my God, we have a.
We're really glad to have you
hold
here.
on. I have
we
one
do
last-
have
It's
the
the numbers.
Do you
PPI.
notice, though, the market fluctuations of your own stock? Like, do you look every day?
Not every day.
Not every day?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll look at the end of the day.
At the end of the day?
Yeah.
And do you feel
Sometimes
good?
the-
Does it impact how good or bad you feel?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I'm curious. No, because it does go up and down a lot. That we talk about every day.
Are you interested in the PPI?
There's nothing I could do about it, so my interest level's low.
That's right.
But I still enjoy your show.
Thank you.
That's
We love
nice.
having you here.
Thank
Go, you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jensen.
You never know who is going to stop by the Squawk set at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. Thanks to Jensen Huang.
Take a look at the NASDAQ this morning. Jensen Huang and Nvidia ringing the opening bell after crashing the Squawk set this morning.
And that's our podcast for today and for the week. Thank goodness it's Friday. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. You can tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern, but get the smartest takes and analysis from our TV show right into your ears, right in a podcast, when you follow Squawk Pod wherever you like to listen. We'll meet you right back here on Monday. Have a great weekend.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.